One arrogant boss, one quiet intern. By the end of the meeting, their positions weren't just reversed, they were rewritten forever. It was a bright afternoon, the kind that made the skyline shimmer through the glass walls of Harper & Coder headquarters, turning everything inside to shades of gold. The office hummed softly with routine life, the rhythmic tapping of keyboards, the muted ring of telephones, the faint hiss of the espresso machine down the hall. Conversations floated like whispers, measured and polite, each word weighed by ambition. Through the glow and motion, Amara Johnson stepped quietly into the room, holding a worn leather notebook close to her chest. Her stride was steady but humble, her eyes sharp and observant, the kind of gaze that noticed more than most people ever would. Her dark curls framed a face both young and composed, betraying neither nerves nor arrogance. She was only 1 week into her internship, yet something about her stood out. Maybe it was her calm focus, or the way she chose silence over small talk. She didn't try to impress. She simply was. As she made her way to her desk, sunlight fell across her face, catching the faintest smile. No one knew it then, but the quiet girl with the notebook was about to change everything. The boardroom gleamed with glass and chrome, sunlight spilling across the long, polished table where power seemed to sit like a silent guest. Amara stood near the end, balancing a tray of coffee cups as the executives discussed numbers and projections that filled the air like static. She listened closely, jotting down notes, her mind connecting dots others didn't even see. When a slide on the screen revealed a weak marketing plan, she hesitated, then spoke, her voice calm but certain. If the campaign focused on community stories rather than just profit margins, it could build real trust, she said gently. A pause. Heads turned. The CEO, Mr. Clarkson, leaned back in his leather chair, lips curling into a smirk. "You're here to learn, not to lead," he said, his laughter bouncing off the glass walls. A few others joined in, forced, nervous chuckles filling the room. Heat rose in Amara's chest, but she swallowed it. Her hands trembled just once before she steadied them on her notebook. She gave a polite nod, her expression unreadable, her eyes still sharp, watching, learning, remembering. And as Mr. Clarkson turned away, still amused, Amara quietly wrote something in her notes. A single sentence, something only she would understand, for now. The afternoon light shifted, stretching long shadows across the marble floor as a low murmur rippled through the office. Outside, the reflection of black cars glided to a stop at the front entrance, sleek, tinted, and unmistakably important. The soft hum of conversation swelled into restless whispers. "The new partner's here," someone murmured near the elevators. "The one who just bought half the company." Papers were straightened, jackets buttoned, smiles practiced in glass reflections. The air itself seemed to tighten. Even Mr. Clarkson, usually so composed, tugged once at his tie and checked his watch, his earlier arrogance replaced by a flicker of anticipation. The staff scrambled to make the office spotless, pretending not to stare at the line of unfamiliar suits stepping through the doors. From her corner, Amara sat quietly, her pen still. Through the transparent walls of the boardroom, she watched the scene unfold, her gaze calm, almost detached, yet filled with a knowing stillness. The footsteps grew louder as the visitors approached, their polished shoes clicking against marble like a countdown. Amara's reflection met her eyes in the glass. She exhaled slowly, her heartbeat steady. Something inside her whispered, "It's time." The glass doors swung open with a soft click, and the room fell into an uneasy silence. Every executive straightened in their seats as the visitors entered, their expressions composed yet expectant. Then, to everyone's astonishment, Amara rose from her chair. The tray of untouched coffee sat forgotten beside her notebook. One of the distinguished guests, a tall man in a tailored navy suit, gave her a respectful nod. "Ms. Johnson," he said with a faint smile, "the floor is yours." A ripple of confusion swept through the boardroom. Pen stilled. Eyes darted from Amara to Mr. Clarkson, who blinked in disbelief. Amara moved gracefully to the head of the table, her every step deliberate, calm. The air seemed to shift around her, the quiet intern no longer blending into the background but commanding it. She met Mr. Clarkson's gaze. "As of this morning," she began, her voice steady, "my foundation has finalized the acquisition of Harper & Co. I'll be overseeing the transition, effective immediately." The color drained from his face. The smirk that once carried power dissolved into stunned silence. Around the table, no one dared to breathe. The intern he laughed at minutes ago now owned the room, and the company. The truth began to spread through the office like a quiet storm, whispered first, then confirmed in stunned disbelief. Amara Johnson, the soft-spoken intern who fetched coffee and took notes, was no intern at all. Years before, she had co-founded a tech startup that revolutionized digital security. Her innovation caught the attention of global investors, turning her into one of the youngest female entrepreneurs to build a multi-million-dollar portfolio. But Amara had never been interested only in profit. She cared about people. And she wanted to see firsthand how companies treated those with the least power in the room. So she'd entered Harper & Co. quietly, blending in with interns, observing how leaders led, or failed to. Her silence had never been weakness. It had been strategy. Every note she'd taken wasn't about marketing plans or numbers, but about character. Who listened, who dismissed, who led with ego. Now, as the board sat in uneasy silence, those same notes lay open on the table. Neat, meticulous, undeniable. Amara looked at them one last time before closing her notebook. The experiment was over, and the results, she thought, spoke louder than any meeting ever could. The silence in the boardroom felt heavier than glass. Mr. Clarkson, once so sure of himself, now stood frozen. His polished confidence shattered. His voice broke as he stumbled through apologies, each word thinner than the last. The same executives, who had chuckled at Amara's expense, now stared down at their hands, their laughter replaced by an aching quiet. No one met her eyes. Amara didn't move for a long moment. The golden afternoon light poured across the table, brushing against her face. Calm, unreadable, composed. When she finally spoke, her voice carried no anger, only truth. "Power doesn't excuse disrespect," she said softly. "You never know who's watching, or what they're capable of." Her words lingered, echoing through the still air. There was no triumph in her tone, no need to humiliate the man who once mocked her. Her restraint spoke louder than vengeance ever could. Mr. Clarkson's shoulders sank. He nodded faintly, the weight of his own arrogance pressing down on him. Amara closed her notebook, her expression serene. She had made her point, not through rage or revenge, but through grace. And in that moment, everyone in the room learned what true authority looked like. The building was quieter now. The hum of the day had faded into the soft sigh of evening, sunlight slanting low through the tall glass windows. Amara walked down the same hallway, where just hours before, she'd felt small, invisible even. The floor gleamed beneath her heels, each step echoing with quiet certainty. The golden light followed her, spilling across her shoulders, turning her silhouette into something radiant. The same walls that once framed her as an intern now reflected her as a leader. But Amara didn't walk faster, didn't bask in the attention she could easily command. She simply moved with calm grace, the kind that comes from knowing who you are, and who you never needed to prove yourself to. As she neared the exit, she paused by the window, watching the city shimmer in the fading sun. A faint smile touched her lips as she heard her grandmother's voice in memory. "Let them underestimate you. That's where your power begins." She whispered a soft thank you to the quiet, to every moment of being overlooked, dismissed, doubted. Because in the end, true strength doesn't need to shout. It simply rises, steady, certain, when the world least expects it. Never judge someone by their title, color, or position. Respect costs nothing, but arrogance can cost everything.